Welcome back to the GSMC College Football Podcast, presented to you by the GSMC Podcast Network on this Thursday, May 22nd. Just touched on some programs that I think have some breakthrough potential for this upcoming year. Gonna switch gears a little bit, but before I get into anything else, I want to remind everybody that this show is all about you. We love hearing your comments, your questions, your insights, your opinions, whatever you got, we want to hear it. We want to make this show as interactive, as fun, as exciting as possible. One easy way to do that, if you're on YouTube, you can use the Super Chat feature. To use the Super Chat feature, all you have to do is click the $ at the bottom of the chat box, type in your message there, send that in. This guarantees that your message gets on the air, gets read live. It's also just a great way to support our channel, support what we're trying to build here at the GSMC Podcast Network. We're so grateful to have you all here as a part of our community. We couldn't do what we do without your ongoing support here at GSMC. Now, I was going to talk a little bit about Big Ten SEC, might still talk about that, but first, I have some breaking news. So, it sounds like, from the time I went on the air, according to Heather Dinich of ESPN, everybody, the officials around college football, around the college football playoff format, have officially approved the playoff format changing. It's not going to be auto buys anymore for conference champions. They're going to move to a straight seeding model. The top 4 teams ranked in the country will earn those buys. This is a move that I think makes a ton of sense. It's something I had kind of been campaigning for. When you look at kind of what happened last year with the buys, with all of that, how that shook out, it just didn't really make sense to continue rewarding conference champions by giving them a bye. Yes, they completely earn a bid. I'm not disagreeing with that. Conference champions, if you're a Power 4 conference champion, if you're that Group of 5 conference champion, you deserve to be in the college football playoff. There's no question about that. But when you have a scenario like last year, where Boise State earns a bye, Arizona State earns a bye. Arizona State was the number 12 team in the country, yet they were earned a bye because of winning the Big 12. I don't really think that makes a lot of sense, and we kind of saw it really hurt teams such as Oregon last year. Oregon was the number 1 seed in the country. Number 1 team, undefeated throughout the regular season, wins the Big Ten championship, and what's the reward? They have to play Ohio State, who was probably the 4th or 5th best team in the country. I think they were ranked 5 at the time. But again, you have to play Ohio State as opposed to playing, the 9 or 10 seed, something like that. You have to play the team that goes on to win the national championship. That's not really fair for the number 1 seed, I think. I mean, when you're looking at it, that's your reward for going undefeated, winning the regular season, winning your championship. You have to play probably one of the best teams in the country in your first college football playoff matchup. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. Yes, this is a tournament for the elite, right? This is top 12 in the country, probably going to move to 16 soon, but top 12 in the country, it's for the elite. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense, though, that if you're the number 1 team in the country, your reward is having to play one of the other top teams in the country when there's lower caliber opponents still available to schedule against. I really like this. I think straight seeding makes the most sense. Again, conference champions, they deserve to be in. Arizona State certainly deserved to be in last year. If you look at Boise State, deserved to be in last year. They ran through the regular season, both of those squads. They end up winning their conferences. They were the highest ranked champions. The Boise State, they were the highest ranked Group of 5 champion. They deserve to be in the college football playoff. They deserve to have a spot at the table. However, that doesn't mean that they should automatically get a bid or a bye, right? I don't think that's fair when you think about it. Arizona State was certainly not a top 4 team in the country last year. Same thing with Boise State. They certainly were not a top 4 team in the country last year. So you're kind of penalizing some schools that were better than them, that had better chances to win national championships. You're penalizing those programs and giving some other programs in Arizona State, Boise State, those kind of caliber programs, you're giving them a better opportunity to win. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. The regular season should count for something, I think, and that's one of the big things here. But I just wanted to share that news. That's my little tangent on that. We're going to continue on with my Big Ten SEC kind of debate. And this was sparked recently by Urban Meyer. So Urban Meyer was at the game at the Rose Bowl, far enough away from the Ohio State sideline to not be a distraction. As the final seconds ticked off the clock in Pasadena, he witnesses Big Ten football at its finest in the college football playoff era. Loaded number 8 seed Ohio State, they dismantled a previously unbeaten conference champion in Texas. And this is kind of how it's gone. There hasn't been a more complete masterpiece in the weeks that followed then after the Rose Bowl. Ohio State beats Oregon by 3 touchdowns. Then they take down Texas. And then they carry that momentum into the national championship, beat Notre Dame, win something for the Big Ten. And Notre Dame, mind you, they knocked out Georgia in the semifinal. They knock out an SEC team, so there's no SEC teams in the national championship for the second year in a row. For good measure, Ohio State also kind of kicked off that college football playoff run by dismantling Tennessee at home, an SEC opponent. The Big Ten's 2024 college football playoff run, I think, was a peak moment of a process that began a couple years ago when Nick Saban and Alabama were stopped by Michigan at the goal line at the Rose Bowl, kind of ending the SEC's multi-year reign at the top of college football, at the top of that hierarchy. Saban steps away then, and since then, the SEC has no more title trophies. Urban Meyer kind of said, you know what the SEC's done? It's raised the level. But the Big Ten has passed the SEC on the upper part. If you would have told me that 10 years ago, I would have said it's not even close, because it's not. This is something that's kind of been debated, and other people have said something similar. If you go into the 2025 season looking at preseason win totals, the Big Ten, they have 3 teams that their win totals are set at 10.5. Meanwhile, the SEC has no teams projected to win double-digit games. That's according to FanDuel Sportsbook right now. Urban Meyer also, this is a guy that coached at Florida in the SEC, obviously coached at Ohio State then in the Big Ten. And he said the narrative kind of began to change when Big Ten really started going after top-end players in recruiting. When they first got to the Big Ten, even his wife said that this is slow football. That's just kind of how it was. But Ohio State kind of changed that under Urban Meyer, introducing a more spread-out offense, more fast-paced, kind of getting with the times of college football. And then they really started investing in blue-chip prospects. Kind of everybody else follows suit. You start seeing Michigan go after 5 stars, Penn State go after 5 stars, that kind of thing. As a result, you look at the Michigan team 2 years ago. That was probably one of the best football teams we've ever seen throughout college football. Ohio State, this past year, again, probably one of the best rosters top to bottom we've seen throughout college football. Penn State, some of these other programs, all having great success. And you look at just some of the guys that Jeremiah Smith, Drew Aller. Drew Aller could be the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft, which, if he was, that's highly speculative. But if Drew Aller is the number 1 overall draft pick in 2026, he would be the first Big Ten player to do so since Jeff George in 1990. 1990, 35 years since the Big Ten has had a number 1 overall pick, is pretty crazy. Then you also look at TV revenue, TV contracts. The Big Ten, they're almost over $1 billion in revenue. They have led college football, that landscape, in the past couple of seasons after signing that big-time deal with ESPN a few years ago. And there's 5 programs right now that have legit playoff hopes. But the SEC, they're still there. They're still hanging around. This is a league that's won 15 national titles in the 27 years since BCS was introduced in 1998. Hasn't been all one school. Obviously, Alabama has won a bunch of times under Nick Saban, but 6 different SEC schools have hoisted the national championship trophy in the past quarter century. Now, the Big Ten has won 2 in a row with 2 different programs. They also got 4 teams into the 12-team college football playoff last year, and 3 of them made it to the quarterfinals, while 2 made the semifinals. SEC, they only got 3 teams in last year. Texas was the only one of those to win a game. And they almost got knocked out, too, by Arizona State in that crazy overtime game. Georgia, Tennessee, both one-and-dones. They won, they got in the playoff, and then they lose right away. Unceremoniously kind of dumped out by the 2 teams that end up in the national championship. You look at the Big Ten head-to-head, went 2-0 against the SEC in the college football playoff. They also went 3-1 against it in other bowl games. So it kind of seems like the Big Ten has overtaken that spot. However, there's a difference here, I think, in the Big Ten. They're kind of have the same argument now that SEC fans or non-SEC fans always used to make against the SEC. The Big Ten is very top-heavy. They may have 4 top 10 teams, but then it only has 4 more in the top 40 in the country. If you make matters worse, the Big Ten also has 3 teams ranked in the bottom 40 of the country right now in Maryland, Northwestern, and Purdue. SEC only has 2 in Kentucky and Mississippi State right now. So essentially what we can take away is, yes, the Big Ten has won 2 national championships with 2 different schools in the past couple of years, but it's a very top-heavy league. It's a league where there's a clear separation between the top 4 or 5 programs and then pretty much everybody else. SEC, they might not have the best team in the country every year like they used to, but it's got a larger selection of really, really good football teams. You look at Texas, yes, I think they're up there right now. Georgia, obviously. Alabama is a really good football team. South Carolina, LSU, Ole Miss even, Tennessee, all these kind of middle-tier programs, but all of them could at any point be in the college football playoff conversation. Texas A&M, kind of on a similar path. So I think once you get past the Big Ten's kind of 5 teams, the SEC starts to look stronger top to bottom. So, I don't know. This is going to be a debate that goes on forever. I probably right now would lean towards more of the Big Ten having supremacy at this point in the college football landscape. However, this is something that could change in an instant. The SEC still producing really strong teams, really strong players, and they certainly could get back up to that top tier. I just think, based on the past couple of years, kind of the way everything's been trending, the Big Ten is on fire right now. I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see it, especially with Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State, all being really strong teams this year. It's going to be interesting. But right now, we're going to take another short break on the show. When we come back, we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about some of the best matchups for this upcoming year, some games that I'm really excited about. But we're going to dive into all of that when we come back on the GSMC College Football Podcast.